Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Scuba webinar series. We have three very exciting speakers joining us today. And on our first episode, we just spoke about how important tourism is for our country. On this episode, we are going to be talking about destinations, how to pick the right liveaboards, and more surprises ahead with our very amazing speakers. So again, let me just remind everyone, this is powered by the Department of Tourism. We all know that the pandemic has hit so many of us, and it's time that slowly but surely, and of course safely, we go back to visiting our favorite dive sites around the Philippines. Let me also remind everyone that if you have any questions, you can put it on the Facebook Live comment box in the ADEX page, also shared on the Department of Tourism page. And we also have a Q&A section and question and answer chat box here in Zoom if you are logged in Zoom. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker. We have somebody representing sales of the Europe and Asia Atlantis Resorts and Liveaboards, Roni Ben-Aharon. Hello, Roni.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, Roni. Are you in Manila right now or in the Philippines?
I'm actually outside of the Philippines, unfortunately. We got stuck as borders shut down, and so anxiously, like everybody else, waiting to get back home.
Yes, well, right now in the Philippines, it seems like it's winter. The weather's a little colder, the diving's a little colder, so maybe you can come back before when the summer is back and it's warmer again. So let me give you the floor.
Excellent. Well, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to share my screen real quick and go through a presentation. I said, my name is Roni. I've spent the last 5 years in the Philippines in the Visayas area, living in Dumaguete off Negros Island, and working for Atlantis Dive Resorts and Liveaboards. Let me quickly share my screen here. Here we go, and you should be able to see that. So one of the things that we all love about the Philippines is, of course, the incredibly diverse diving. Diving is actually rated in the Philippines one of the top 5 countries to dive in the world based on Sports Diver magazine. And so this is in a very enlarged map of the Philippines with over 7,100 islands. I think actually the last count, Yvette, if I'm not wrong, is 7,643 or something along those lines. So we've got a massive aquatic nation here with a lot of channels that go in between the islands. What makes the Philippines so unique is a couple of very interesting facts that I just want to touch upon, just so people who don't know the Philippines yet or who don't know why they should come dive in the Philippines obviously learn of. So the Philippines is actually laying between 4 major large bodies of water. If you can see my cursor here, this is the West Philippine Sea or the South China Sea, depending who you ask. And here we've got the Pacific Ocean, and to the south, the Celebes Sea and the Sulu Sea. Those massive bodies of water carry open ocean currents that come in between the islands and leave rich nutrients on the channels between the islands. The Philippines is 6 degrees off the equator and is lying in the meeting point of 2 very important currents, oceanic currents, the North Equatorial Current and the North Pacific Current. When we look at the Philippines, by and large, with over 7,000 islands, it's impossible to think how we can dive all of these islands or visit all of them or know what's under the water in all of them. But nevertheless, we've got major areas where we normally dive. One of them is here in the north. These 2 islands, Luzon, that is the largest island of the Philippines, where Manila lays here. And then we've got the Verde Passage and the island of Mindoro. That is what we normally refer to as northern Philippine diving. Of course, there's heaps of diving also all the way on the top of Luzon, but most people dive in this area, considered the north part of the Philippines. Then we've got this skinny little island here. It's not so little, it's just very skinny. And on the top of it, 2 small islands, Coron and Busuanga. That entire area is called Palawan. It has very, very important dive destinations as well as very well-known touristic destinations like El Nido. And then we've got this area here called the Visayas. It's a group of 6 islands that if you look at them, they look like a puzzle. If you'd put them together, they almost perfectly match. This area is a very popular area for divers, A, because it's very easy to get around, and B, because it has incredibly diverse life, from whale sharks to thresher sharks to sardine to mackerel. Everything is centered in the Visayas. And so this is a map of a photo from Coron Island. The Philippines has an incredible top side as well to it, as in addition to the bottom side, right? Vertical, beautiful cliffs, an archipelago over 7,000 islands with a total land mass about the size of Italy. It's a global hotspot for marine biodiversity, and it's located in the northwest side of the Coral Triangle. The Coral Triangle is an imaginary triangle that includes 6 aquatic nations and is very, very important because it has 70% of the coral species in the world and about 65% of the species of fish, 6 out of the 7 different species of marine turtles. What this means is every time you put a mask on and put your head in the water, you're likely to see more things than you will anywhere else outside of the Coral Triangle. And of course, us in the Philippines, we're laying exactly in the middle of that Coral Triangle. It's an important habitat for feeding, breeding, and migratory species like tunas and dolphins and whale sharks and dugongs and whales. And this is why everybody likes to come to the Philippines, right? And so when we think about, we've already made the decision to come and dive in the Philippines, and that was a very wise decision if you ask me. And then we start talking about, okay, are we going to be diving off a liveaboard? Are we going to dive off a resort? Why should we do either one? And what are some of the thoughts that you need to put into it? So when we go diving off a liveaboard, the reason everybody loves liveaboards is because you can get to very remote destinations that you cannot get to on day boats. And you have the ability to dive in an astounding biodiversity that is remote from everyday life, especially from everyday coastal fishing. You can dive different locations every day because the boat can move around from different locations. And you have very, very short boat rides, right? You just go into the skiff, whoosh, off you go, about 1 minute, and you're at the dive side. And of course, dive with no distraction. It's all we do on a liveaboard is eat, sleep, dive, repeat. So what's important when you're looking at a liveaboard to choose? Of course, the first thing you always want to think about is how pretty the boat is. No, you want to think about safety, right? So when you're looking at a liveaboard, what you're looking to find is the safety features of the boat, the size of the boat, the material that the boat is made of course, the different radio system, the alarm system that the boat has, emergency exits, hatches, and whatnot. After safety, you're also looking at a spacious place. A lot of people are concerned that if they get on a boat, they're going to be cramped together. Because when you're in the resort, you have all the place to go around, right? And then on the boat, of course, you're confined. You can't jump in the water and live in the water yet. And so we're thinking about, okay, how can I be comfortable when I'm on a liveaboard? What you're looking for is a spacious dive deck. As you get ready, you don't want to bump into other people. You put your tank on, you don't want to hear that bling when you just bumped into the person next to you who's putting their tank on. And of course, the different dive groups. How big are the dive groups? How many guides are on board? How many divers per guide? And especially, how many dive crew do we have? So if we need an extra crew that needs to jump in the water, do we have that on the boat? That also touches a little bit about safety. The next thing people think about is, hey, what am I going to eat on a boat? It's a boat. I mean, it's not the same like being on land where you can go to the market every day and get fresh fruits and veggies and fish. Well, the F&B is definitely very important on a boat. So what you want to check is, what are the inclusions? First of all, is alcohol included? Are sodas included? Or am I being charged for that on board? And second of all, what kind of meal service are we talking about? Is this buffet? Is the breakfast a buffet? Are my eggs sitting and waiting for me while I'm diving? And by the time I come up, they're going to be all soggy? Because we all know you can be in the most incredible destination, the most beautiful diving. If the food sucks, you're not a happy camper. Then we want to look at the crew. What is the ratio between divers and crew members? Just to make sure that you have enough crew members to attend to every need that you have. And of course, the entertainment. So what do you do after you're done with the last dive of the day? What is available for you? And so these are a little bit of points for you to kind of think about when you look at a liveaboard. So I want to talk a little bit about liveaboard diving with Atlantis Dive Resorts and Liveaboards. When we talk about safety, our Liveaboard Azores is Philippines' only blue water rated private yacht. This actually means that our boat is a private yacht. She's 32 meters long, or 107 feet. She's got 8 cabins, 16 divers, 10 crew. So you've got more, you've got 1.6 divers per crew member, basically, when you look at the ratio. And we've got heaps of safety features, from radar to satellite internet to different phone systems and tracking systems. And of course, an engineer on board, a person who's awake at all times on board and monitoring every movement of the boat. In terms of features, a very important feature that you want to look for on a liveaboard is, of course, a water maker. You're out there in sea for like a week. What if you run out of fresh water? How can you shower? So a lot of the newer boats or the more exquisite boats would have a water maker on board. So you'd never have that problem where towards the end of the week, you have to kind of take short showers. We've got a freshwater jacuzzi to go along with that water maker. If you want to desaltize yourself, you just sit on the sun deck in this jacuzzi and enjoy the incredible views, and a very, very spacious dive deck. About a third of our boat is a dive deck. And the idea is that you've got 3 tanks laid out. These are your tanks. You're always diving these tanks. We bring the hose and fill the tanks in between dives. And so you would never find yourself bumping against someone else. Our dive deck is so spacious with a massive table in the middle, 3 different tiers for camera setup, air guns to dry off your cameras, and of course, 2 groups, each going from a different side of the boat. We've got 16 divers in 8 cabins, and excellent cuisine. We don't really do buffets. Dinner is also 3 courses served a la carte, where you choose from a menu. We make everything on board, and we've got an accredited chef, not a dive master who cooks, but an actual chef that's on the boat all the time, and we can cater to any sort of dietary requirements. And of course, most importantly, it's a perfect combination because we have 2 land-based resorts and the boat is actually leaving from the resorts. So it's super easy. You get off the boat, straight to the dive boat of the resort to keep diving, or you dive at the resort, get on the boat and keep diving. So where do we go? We have 4 different itineraries and 2 transition charters. I'm going to touch a little bit upon that and also show you a couple of videos. These videos are also going to be applicable to when my friends Bo and Yvette talk about the destinations that they go to, because we all kind of go to the same places in a way. And so stay tuned and remember the names because they're going to come back up. So the first route that we do is Apple Reef and Coron Rex. That is an insane route that combines reef and rust. So we've got your recce's and we've got your reef people, and we also dive in a wonderful place called Barracuda Lake. Then we do Tubbataha, which is the largest marine park in the Philippines, and the Southern Visayas, Bohol, and the Cebu Malapascua route. So here is the map of the Philippines. Up here we've got Apple Reef and Coron Rex. Tubbataha is that point in the middle of nowhere, and 2 Visayas routes. All this information is, of course, on our website, which is atlantishotel.com. You can see that here in the bottom. So I will not waste more of your time, but you can go there and look at the information. So Apple Reef and Coron Rex. It's a reef and rest. We do it in January and February, and we depart from our resort in Puerto Galera. Apple Reef is all about sharks. It's the 2nd largest Great Barrier Reef in the world, and it's the 2nd largest marine park in the Philippines. It is not accessible by day boats unless you want to spend 3 hours on a banca, which is an outrigger boat, a wooden outrigger boat, not the most comfortable thing to do for 3 hours. But the idea is that because it's so remote, it's a group of 3 islands with channels that run about 30 meters deep that divide the islands. There is no fishing. And so we've got sharks, and rays and reef, beautiful reefs and schools of fish. We've got either wall diving or a sandy channel, lots of biodiversity, lots of incredible opportunities to see the amazing marine life in the Philippines. And then, of course, the wrecks of Coron. Coron is where we held the Second World War II, where the Japanese fought the Americans. And so a lot of the ships came down, the merchant ships and the bigger boats came down to hide in that channel between Coron and Busuanga. And of course, unfortunately, we know how that war turned out. And so we ended up with about 14 wrecks within the recreational limit with an average length of 120 meters. And so we got over 15 of those laying down there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things to see on the boat, including cars and plates and just a lot of remains, not human remains, of course, but a lot of remains from the time where the boat was actually afloat. And so that's very, very interesting dives there. And then, of course, we dive the most incredible Barracuda Lake, which is a reverse thermocline lake. It's a dive from space. It's fresh water. On the surface, you're at 27 degrees. Start going down. As we head down, we get to about 40 degrees and 20 meters. So you can only imagine that you don't dive with a wetsuit, definitely no weights because it's fresh water. It's definitely a dive to remember. And of course, then we go to Buswanga and dive with the dugongs just to finish it off. So that is the first route that we do, Apple Reef and Coron Rex. And then we go to Tubbataha, which is the crown jewel of pelagic diving in the Philippines. It's all about massive walls, big stuff, schools of fish. Everything is super excited. It's only exciting. It's only open for 13 weeks out of the year because of weather conditions and winds. And so it's a very short season and everybody wants to be there. This is where Tubbataha is located. So this is Palawan. Remember, that's Skinny Island. Here is Coron, where the wrecks are, in Buswanga. And this is Tubbataha in the middle of the Sulu Sea. And what do we see in Tubbataha? And I will show you that in a minute. We see everything. Whale sharks swimming up pretty close, mantas, big schools. Everything in their natural habitat. And I want to take you through a movie. It's about a 5-minute long movie, but this is the Tubbataha Marine Park movie that shows you exactly what there is to see, but it also could give you a great idea of what's available in the Philippines.
Close your eyes and imagine this. You are looking into an unfathomable, endless blue sea. It calls to you. You are irresistibly drawn to what lies beneath the surface. And then you plunge into a new world. A world so unlike the one above it, yet which looks and feels familiar. A place of extraordinary beauty, where the colors of nature astound. Where mighty currents spread life over vast distances. A world of abundance and power, fragility and tenderness, mystery and magnificence. It is one of the world's greatest marine ecosystems, and it is here in the Philippines. Open your eyes, because this world is real. This is Tubbataha. The Samal people call it a long reef exposed at low tide. It is a gem in the middle of the Sulu Sea, 90 nautical miles from Puerto Princesa, Palawan. Explore 97,000 hectares of the dramatic seascapes of Southeast Asia's only purely marine UNESCO World Heritage Site, and let it fill your senses. 2 atolls on the north and south, formed over millennia, and an adjacent reef known as Jessie Beasley, make up the Tubbataha Reef's natural park. It sits at the apex of the Coral Triangle, global center of marine biodiversity, sheltering most of the corals found on the planet. Rare and endangered creatures, from microscopic blooms to massive whale sharks, find a haven here. Ascending to the surface, you discover that the splendor below is reflected in the beauty of the land and the sky. For Tubbataha nurtures even above water. Bird Islet on the North Atoll, a globally important rookery, reverberates with the calls of tens of thousands of seabirds. In the South Atoll, a lighthouse guides mariners across the treacherous waters of the Sulu Sea, while in the North Atoll, the Ranger Station, home of the Marine Park Rangers who safeguard the park, is a solitary bastion of stewardship. Tubbataha sustains, carrying fish and coral larvae as far as the mainland to feed thousands of Filipinos who rely on the bounty of the sea. And Tubbataha also captivates as the crown jewel among the Philippines' stunning dive sites. Tourism is Tubbataha's main benefactor, contributing most of the funds needed each year to manage the park. Its custodians work closely with government and the private sector to safeguard this marine heritage. In Tubbataha, every visitor is a privileged guest, and every guest must treat this kingdom with respect. There is no place for fishing, extraction, destruction, or harassment of the denizens of this sanctuary. Tubbataha is a gift that has nourished the soul for generations. Only through our shared understanding and commitment can Tubbataha remain a reality, a dream well within our reach. All you have to do is open your eyes.
And so, of course, as you can see, this is one of the most incredible places in the world to dive. What we see over there are not things that people would normally see. It's a trip of a lifetime, and I'm sure my colleagues would agree. I'd like to share with you that when you think about Tubbataha, you are sitting there 90 nautical miles away from the nearest island. So it is very important what kind of boat you choose to go on. We've got different size of vessels, different materials. So you're thinking, well, what if there's a little bit of waves? What if they're like a 2-meter sea? Am I safe? Am I going to feel seasick? Am I going to be like this for a week? So definitely have a look at the size and the stability of the boat that you choose to go on, especially in locations like Tubbataha, which are remote. Another thing to look at is, of course, the cruising speed of a boat. How long does it take you to get from one place to another? As you can see, this is Atlantis Azores. Like I've mentioned before, a very spacious dive deck here, about a third of the boat. The freshwater jacuzzis up here and a barbecue and whatnot. And so that was Tubbataha. If you guys want to go dive in Tubbataha, you definitely have to open your eyes, because what we're looking at is booking years and years ahead because of the short season. So do keep that in mind. Then we've got a really interesting 2 different routes in the Visayas area. If you remember that group of 6 islands down there in the south, one of them is an amazing, amazing itinerary for newbie divers. So if you've never been on a liveaboard before and you're a little bit concerned with, hey, you know, maybe I don't want to go to Tubbataha where I can't even see a piece of land the whole week, but I'd like to start with an easy kind of island cruising location where I can feel like I can see the land and don't freak out as much by being in the sea the whole time. This is absolutely normal, guys. If you're feeling that, but you were always been scared to actually admit it, it's okay. Every time new divers come on board, it's, you know, it takes a while to get situated for a liveaboard. Absolutely. So don't be freaked out by it. So the Bohol itinerary is actually combining a great island cruising opportunity, and we spent half day on shore visiting Panglao. And the chocolate hills of Bohol. And so it's also a great itinerary for snorkelers. So if you're a couple of a diver and a snorkeler, this is where you want to go. On this trip, we see whale sharks, we see sardines, we see beautiful, beautiful macro and the incredible corals of Apo Island. And so that trip is between June and December, and we leave from our resort in Dumaguete, which makes it a perfect combination. So, like I said, we see whale sharks, sardines, beautiful walls, incredible corals, and wonderful biodiversity, and all in a very easy, unlikely to get stormy at type of location. I just want to show you a couple of small things what we can see in Bohol, but this is also true for almost all of Philippines. So that, of course, my friends, is a frogfish. We have 7 different species of frogfish in the Philippines. Incredible sighting in April, May, and June, which is our frogfish season. Although we do see them year round, we spot way more during those months. And of course, our lovely friends, the octopus. Seahorses, pygmy seahorses, various macro life. That is what you're going to see along with whale sharks and sardines on this trip. And then our last route is actually a very, very interesting run. One of my personal favorites is an exquisite chance to see the thresher sharks. Let me just touch upon that because a lot of people know that the thresher sharks are in Malapascua. And so we think, well, I could just be on an island and do that. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I did it both ways. And so if you want to be on an island, of course, the island of Malapascua is amazing to stay on. You'd have to wake up at 3:30 in the morning, head over to the dive shop, hop on a boat ride for about 1 hour and get to the cleaning station where the thresher sharks are at about 5:30 a.m. with 10 other boats. When you do this off a liveaboard, you wake up at like 5:10, and by 5:20 you're in the water, depending on how quickly you go. And then diving before everyone else gets there, get an exquisite chance to see the thresher sharks on your own before everybody else gets there. So that's really the biggest difference there in Malapascua. We also spend 2 mornings up there. So what we do is similar to the Bohol route, we dive with the sardines and the whale sharks, but then we go all the way up to Malapascua on Cebu Island in the northern part and dive with the thresher sharks. And also this itinerary leaves from our resort in Dumaguete. So do you want to be alone with these guys? That's why you want to take a liveaboard trip going to Cebu, Malapascua. And of course, the whale sharks, the white tips, the wolves, the sardines, and incredible macro. So this is Gato Island off Malapascua Island, an incredible dive destination, beautiful rock formations, and within those little caverns, heaps of white tip sharks sleeping. And one obviously awakened here. And so welcome on board. This is our boat, as I mentioned, a freshwater jacuzzi, 2 sun decks, a barbecue that we do a barbecue night. This is our galley. So everything happens here. Here is our entertainment center. We have, of course, a big sitting area with a server with over 1,000 movies. But really the crown jewel of what we have on the boat is a karaoke machine. Hello. I mean, you're in the Philippines. So this is a great way to keep you entertained at night and to keep you entertained by yourself. And so our crew are exquisite singers. And we always find at least a singer or two when we dive with our guests. We've got very nice coffee machines, espresso machine, cookies and granola bars throughout the day. Coffee is served throughout the days, tea and whatnot. And these are our cabins. So all of our cabins look the same. They've got a double bed in the bottom and a single bunk, so they can be for a couple or for 2 friends sharing. They each have their own, of course, toilet and shower and their own air conditioning unit. So you can control your own climate. And then we have one owner suite on the top behind the captain's crew. And that one is about twice the size of the other cabins. But again, same thing with a double bed and a single bunk. So we are waiting for you. We, and by we, I mean the Philippines. By we, I mean Atlantis Dive Resorts. By we, I mean all of us here on this panel who are eagerly waiting for you guys to come back and dive in the Philippines. We miss you. The water misses you. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was such an amazing and informative presentation, Roni. I really like the fact that you brought up that you did Malapascua both on a land tour and on a boat. I must say, and I want to share with audiences that are watching right now, I know that is the question that a lot of you have, because especially with a tour like going around the Visayas, it is very accessible through airplane. But what I would like to say, and it's really good if you could commit a week, especially maybe post-COVID or something, that instead of flying one by one to all the different locations in the islands, going on a liveaboard, like what Roni shared, is actually ends up saving you money as well, and travel time, and the effort of packing, unpacking, and a tour like that. I really enjoyed it when I tried it out. And, you know, I'm sure our next speakers have more to say about this. So without further ado, are you ready for the next speaker? She is from the PCSSD. She is a PCSSD commissioner. She is also the director for marketing and media affairs of the Discovery Fleet. Everyone, may we welcome Yvette Lee. Hello, Yvette.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you give me a thumbs up to see that to make sure that I can hear you?
Yes, we can hear you very well.
You can hear me. Okay. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. I'm going to talk about what I believe will be the newest dive destination here in the Philippines, Liveaboard wise. I had the good fortune. We'll start the screen sharing. So. Here we go. So, you know, when the COVID happened, I'm sure everybody here in the Philippines, especially the Liveaboard dive operators, it shut down our Tubbataha season effectively. And for that matter, all the other diving as well, just as well. So I was so surprised to receive an email from Oceana. Oceana is an NGO based out of the United States, and they are focused on marine conservation. So in a nutshell, what they do is they help craft laws for the marine protection. And so what they wanted to do was do an expedition to Panelists Island. You can see where Panelists Island, in reference to the whole of the Philippines, it's in southern Leyte, and it's an island on the southernmost tip of southern Leyte. That's the one on the big screen. Dealing with an NGO based out of the States, their requirements are very strict, legal and otherwise. So it took us quite a few months before we finally were able to mount the expedition. I mean, we had literally hundreds of emails going back and forth between the people here and also in the States. But suffice to say, we were all happy to be able to finally mount the expedition from October 22 to November 4 of last year. I was lucky to be invited because I do take pictures also, and they invited me to be part of their documentary screen, the team. Okay, now how do I advance? So because it was I mean, until now we're still under COVID, we of course had to practice social distancing on the boat for a while. It was a long expedition. It was 22 days or more. So midway after the 14th day, we were advised by our doctors that we were able to take off our masks. But in the meantime, this is how we look. These are all the members of the expedition team, including the dive masters. We had scientists on board, the ones that covered the fish, that covered the corals, and also some people that covered the mangroves. So this is our salon. We used the Discovery Palawan. It's a huge boat. I think we're the biggest in the Tubbataha fleet. We're almost 50 meters long, and we also were able to give everybody their own rooms for COVID precautions, and I'm sure everybody was happy to be able to do that. Prior to the trip, one of the doctors, actually several of them, talked about what we were planning to do, because it took us from Batangas, it took us 2.5 days to reach down south. So we had time to listen and to plan as to how everyday activities were going to happen. So this is some of the activities. Well, actually, the doctors, the marine scientists, pretty much work between 5 meters to 20 meters. And this is what they did every day. And, you know, I used to think that they would sit around and just count fish or look at coral. Man, their job is very, very tiring. They spend an average of 1.5 to 2 hours for every dive because they lay out the transect lines and somebody lays it out. Somebody then goes and photographs like this lady is doing. She's taking pictures of the transect line so that they can review the pictures when they get back to the lab. Well, this gentleman in the meantime is taking, obviously, writing the notes about the coral cover, and somebody else is doing the same for the fish. Okay, so I will, in those 16 days, we covered 35 dive sites. I'm not going to go through each one, but I'm just going to go through the ones that, in my eyes, as a photographer and as a Liveaboard destination marketer, these are my favorites. There were two types of places that we reviewed. The ones that were already declared MPAs, so sometimes you will see a name that says Bahay inside or Kabig outside. It just means that if it's inside, we were inside the MPA, and we also surveyed the outside portion so that we could see we had a comparison, or they had a comparison to see what the marine life was inside and outside the MPA. So Bahay MPA, it's known for this huge. This was inside. There were very large sea fans, and I used our Dr. D, who was my dive buddy for the trip, and also as my scale model. You can see that she's really way up against the sea fan, and how huge the sea fan is in relation to her. A lot of the places, I would say 90% of the places that we dove were reefs. And as most of you know, as the Liveaboard enthusiasts know, most of the sea fans we see are on the walls. But because this area is very pristine and also has a good amount of current, we had sea fans growing off the floor, as well as sea whips.
Hi, Yvette. Let me jump in really quickly. For the ADEX organizers, if you want them to move to the next slide, you can say next or next.
Okay.
Slide.
Are they the one doing it? It's L. Okay, it's L France. Okay, so, and also one of the things that I noticed about this area is they had a lot of anemones with a very unusual color of the underside of the anemone. I mean, we see it of course over the Philippines, but these types of anemone was prevalent in that area. Next, please. Okay, so one of the other places that we did that was outside an MPA but was an exceptional dive site is Balong Balong outside. And what happened was, this one was actually a sandy area that had a sweeping current, and then there was a reef that appeared. So the current would have moved from a sandy area into a rocky coral outcrop. And that's why the coral outcrop was blessed with a lot of coral cover. Next, please. They had a lot of these types of elephant ear or curtain coral, as well as black coral. The diversity on this reef was exceptional. And this is one of the areas that I said that they should declare as a sanctuary to protect it. Next, please. This photo pretty much sums up the diversity that you can see on top of the coral reef. Next, please. They had soft, they had fan, and the outcrops, and that's again Dr. D peeking out from behind one of the green tree coral. Next, please. Okay, another one that was outside and one of my favorite, because this type of Dendroneptia soft coral or broccoli coral is my favorite. I'm always looking for it. When I go to a new place, I usually show a photo to the dive master or the dive pros and say, do you have these kinds of coral in your area? And you can see why. They're just absolutely gorgeous. The Bennett Out is similar to Dinagat. Dinagat Islands is a series of islands that's not actually far from where Panaon is. And if if everything goes to plan, that will be included in the as a Liveaboard destination. So the reef stubs are covered with the leather coral and very shallow, large anemones. The anemones in this area astounded me because they're like blankets. They're huge. Well, I'm a little exaggerating, but it's definitely, almost coffee table type of anemones, and also colorful soft corals. Next, please. This is the type of leather corals as well as the senya corals that cover pretty much the shallow reef tops. Most of the area is covered with the boulders or sand in the very shallow, like the 5-meter area. And then you have the sloping coral reefs, and then you have the deeper portions. But I must say, because of Oceana not allowing their scientists to go deeper than 20 meters, I was the one, and my buddy was the one that was tasked to go deeper in document. But I can honestly say that most of the coral cover is good, even up to just 80 feet. And that's pretty much the prime area that you want to see. Next, please. Again, a sample of the coral, the top of the coral reef. This is around 30 to 40 feet or 10 meters. So it's a great destination if you have people who are new to diving and they want the Liveaboard experience and still get a very, very, very big bang for their buck. And, as far as corals and fish are concerned, after you do this and you do some, except for Tubbataha, some other Liveaboards, they're going to be expecting their diving to be like this, and they're going to be disappointed. Next, please. Esperanza outside is one of the areas for me that is a showcase for hard coral. But they also have, in the deeper portions, they have a lot of sea fans and mats of anemone. And there are also overhangs and bommies with the yellow soft coral that's similar to Shark Airport in Tubbataha. But as you can see here, the diversity of hard coral in the cover is astounding. Next, please. This is a sample of the way it sloped from the shallow area. I followed this thing down to about 60 feet. Next, please. And in the deeper portions, you can see the size of the broccoli coral or dendron niftia coral. Because it is pristine and there's very little diver pressure, they grew to huge sizes. Next, please. Again, an underside of the anemone. It's very pretty, so I just added it in. Next, please. Gudan MPA. One of the things that I like about exploring new places is sometimes you get to see a prevalent feature that you normally don't see in the other dive sites that I normally visit. So in Gudan, the prevalent feature were the presence of blue sponges. They were tube, they were curtain, or a combination of both. They also had a lot of the thick-stemmed red fan and other soft corals. The shallow areas are similar to the other sites, lots of leather corals. Next, please. These are the tube corals with blue, and then here you have a combination of both the flat curtain coral and tube, but they're still very blue and they're big. They're big. It's something that it's not normally seen in other sites. Next, please. This type of fan coral, I see some of them in maybe one or two in other areas, like even in Anilao or Puerto Galera, there might be a small shrub of it. But here in Panaon, even across the Sogod Bay in the Sogod area, they have a lot of these things and they grow into incredible sizes. Next, please. This is one of the ones I was saying about the soft coral that hang under the ledges. This is an example of that. And plus, again, the blue coral, the blue sponges that are prevalent. Next, please. Maglit inside, another place with the great coral cover. They're similar to the canyons in Puerto Galera, except that they're very shallow. I mean, this is around 30 to 40 feet, and maybe all the way down to 60. What surprised me, aside from the intact coral, is that next slide, please. The canyons where you see the sand, just to show you how prevalent these kind of corals are. Next slide, please. In between the canyons, there's so much growth that the floor is covered with this type of mushroom and helmet corals. The helmet corals, the two that you see in the middle of the photo, are as big as hats. So it was the diversity of the corals and the amount and the quantity and the quality of the corals that were there was just amazing. Next, please. The photo on the left, I'm just showing you, so to give you to show you that it's not just an area, but it's actually scattered all the way up from the shallow area down to the crevices, and the cracks in between the bommies are filled like that. And again, here's another one of those red fan corals that grow in in pretty good numbers there. It's something that we should appreciate because you don't normally see them growing that big in other places. Next, please. Thank you for listening to me, and for questions or for information about this new dive destination, please send me an email to info@discoveryfleet.com or yvettelee@gmail.com. And of course, we are hoping to have a Tubbataha season this year, as the rest of the Liveaboard operators are. Okay. So let's hope for a Tubbataha season, and then let's go straight into Panelists Island.
Thank you so much for presenting that, Yvette. It really shows that the Philippines has so many uncharted areas, and we're so lucky that we have people like you who document this, share it with us, and explore. So amazing job. Now, are we ready for our third and last speaker? He is an underwater photographer and cinematographer. He is also a PCSSD commissioner and a PADI ambassador diver. May we welcome Bo Mancao. Hello, Bo. Okay. Yes, there we go. The floor is yours.
Cheers, V. Thanks so much. I'm super excited to be here. Super stoked to be asked to talk by 8X and DOT. It's a hard act to follow. Roni and Yvette just nailed everything. Super good job, guys. A little bit about myself. I've been doing Tubbataha. Oh, well, I've been on boats since 1996. Our first trip out was in Tubbataha. And let me just share my screen really quick. How's that? Is that coming on? Is that coming on all right, guys?
Bo, you need to swap your screen.
Swap?
You're presenting the another view.
Oh, man.
Okay, you just click play.
All right. Hang on really quick. Sorry about that. Okay. How's that?
Yep, all good now. Thanks.
Okay. So I almost lost my train of thought there. So yes, been on Liveaboard since the mid-90s, and I've been doing trips ever since. Recently, past 4 years, I've been on board Solitude 1, and this boat is a true ocean crossing liveaboard, meaning it crosses from Palau in the Pacific to the Philippines, max 21 days with 22 guests. And it's just an amazing boat to be on. I would really like to reiterate on some of Roni's points a while ago and give you some tips. These are my personal tips on choosing your liveaboard for your next dive holiday. So tip number 1 is, of course, and always should be, safety. Look for the safest liveaboard out there. Look for boats with redundant navigation and good generators. Also, of course, boats with good safety protocol. Now, sometime last year, there was a very big dive accident that happened off of California, and this type of things could have been prevented with just some little safety protocols involved. Another thing to look after when you're choosing your liveaboard is the crew. You have to find a liveaboard with an experienced crew and people that are actually excited to be there and excited to be diving with you. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Another tip is look for a liveaboard with some space, not just because you want the space, but also right now with all the social distancing protocol, it's good to have that extra space on board. Some space not only in the cabins that are big and wide and have comfortable beds, also outside, because let's say, for example, you're on a long cruise, things start happening. The funny things start happening on a boat. Okay, so yeah, look for boats with space. If you're into fitness or if you're into yoga or stuff like that, that helps. If you like staying out a little bit late at night and having parties, yeah, that also helps. There's some boats with space for that. And of course, underwater photography has become very, very huge in the past couple of years. And the cameras have also just gotten bigger and bigger. So look for a boat with a proper camera room, so you have a charging station and um, all these parts places where you can keep your gear. Also, Ronnie mentioned about skiffs. So skiffs are the boats that you get on from the liveaboard to take you to the dive destinations. Now, choose liveaboards with good skiffs, the ones that are comfortable. Let's say these skiffs they have placeholders for your tanks and little compartments underneath for your fins and other stuff. And they also have very good engine and also very good skiff operators. So you're nice and comfortable in the skiff. You come out smiling just like these guys. And also, the food is super, super important. Um, Imagine going on a liveaboard and you couldn't eat a thing. So yeah, with people with dietary requirements, make sure you convey this with your liveaboard operator. And also let us know if you've got a birthday or something coming up, right? And if we know that you're a full Filipino board of guests on board, we'll make sure we'll put something special for you. Now, lastly, I have a quick video that I want to share with you guys. It was filmed and produced on board a liveaboard, Solitude 1 to be exact. And El France, if you could be so kind and play that video. All right. Yeah. So we talked about a few tips about how to find your next liveaboard, and just showed that video of what the diving is like via liveaboard. And that's all I have for now. Thanks a lot, V.
That was absolutely amazing, Bo. And must I say, we did cover a few of the different islands of the Philippines yesterday with the Department of Tourism and the day before. And, thank you for always capturing these beautiful materials and helping promote the Philippines tourism, as we all know how important it is. Now, may I ask all the speakers to unmute for a while, because we are going to go to the fun part of this topic, which is the Q&A. Are you guys ready? Okay, so I think this first question that I have over here can be answered by all three speakers, and maybe each of you will take turns. It's about post-COVID dive tour. They are wondering how it will be. He has some questions about being a backpacker and regular land tours, but that would be for another topic for tourism. But for this, how will it be for liveaboards during the season, and how will it be as well, because most probably it will only be open to one market. So maybe Roni, you can start and let us know what the status is for your liveaboard and the seasons upcoming for 2021.
Well, I think the question needs to be directed at the Philippines government. To when people can move freely and can enter the country. These are two very, very important factors in when we can start operating again. But in terms of how it's all going to work, well, it all depends also on the Department of Health, because the DOH will have guidelines. Yvette, is that right? And I think that PCSSD is definitely going to be helping us receiving these guidelines of what are the laws around how we should operate, capacity, social distancing, and all of that stuff. I think this is not yet very clear, to the best of my knowledge, guidelines from the Philippines government.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yvette and Bo, we're so lucky to have you, as you both are commissioners. Is there anything you want to add to this?
Yes, as a matter of fact, one of the subjects that we did touch on today, because we had our monthly board meeting just prior to this event, was the issuance of the guidelines. But having said that, which means it will be issued soon, it's actually the same guidelines that were issued to the resorts, except that it's also applicable to the liveaboard. So whatever the resorts are doing now, it's the same thing that you have to do on the boat. And because I did conduct a liveaboard trip for the scientists, we did have our COVID guidelines, essentially. Like I said again, the same as with the resort, you need social distancing. We wore masks. When we ate, we were at least a meter apart from each other. In our case, we were big enough to be able to give every person their own room. But prior to just maybe a month ago, since the COVID, for ships, which includes liveaboard, Marina, the Philippine government body that covers the shipping industry, placed a 50% capacity, same as they did initially with the resorts and the hotels. But now, just recently, maybe within the last 2 or 3 weeks, they've increased the capacity to 75%. So we don't know what's going to happen in as much, but we're hoping to open. I mean, Tubbataha is open, guys, girls. It's open. It's just that we don't know whether we will be allowed to embark from Puerto Princesa, because the local government there is not yet opening the airport to tourism arrivals.
Okay.
Not even domestically, right?
Yeah, not even domestically.
Yeah.
Just to add, sorry, we touched base together with the Department of Tourism, and we had representatives from Palawan yesterday. And so far, only that was announced was El Nido and Coron. We're accepting domestic travelers. The others are only accepting local. Local means within that province, nobody from Manila or anything. So just to clarify that, thank you for letting us know that Tubbataha is actually open, and the concern will be to be waiting for the local government to announce if people can depart from Puerto Princesa. Okay, thank you. Bo, is there anything you would like to add, or we can move on to the next question?
Well, I'd just like to say that, the way we're looking at things right now, things change a lot, and they change fast when it comes to all these safety protocols. Let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks. We might be able to give you some more updates then.
Okay, so all our guests asking, and in the questions that I'm receiving now, please stay tuned. I'm sure we can hear if you follow our speakers on Facebook, follow the PCSSD and the local government, so you can stay updated, and of course the liveaboards that were just presented now. So to add to that, with the decreased capacity for liveaboards, would it substantially affect the price? Is anyone willing to answer this? Perhaps Yvette?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yvette is just smiling though.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, because I do have a high capacity boat, so we have no plans of increasing our prices. If anything, we might even decrease it because unfortunately, fortunately, it will only be, unfortunately, actually for the international travelers, but fortunately for the locals, they will be able to go to Tubbataha. And we've always given a good discount for the locals. So that's what I intend to do with the Discovery fleet.
Okay. Any updates for you, Roni? How is there anything, or we will just stay tuned for your announcements in terms of your liveaboard?
We have no plans of increasing the price, and we're still accepting bookings for this year and next year. We're full on Tubbataha before on other routes. We're actually full through 2023 on the Tubbataha season, but it's we have no plans of doing something like this. But just like Yvette said, Bo said, everything changes. Egypt, when they opened their borders, they actually imposed a 50% capacity on the liveaboards, which was then increased to 75, and is a really, really big fight at the moment in Egypt, because especially when you have groups on a full boat charter. So what are you going to do about that? You've sold the full capacity of the boat as a group. And so are you going to take another charter now? And so it's very easy to manage if it's a group of individuals, but if it's a group that had bought the entire boat, it's very difficult and it's an existing group, which is what we're all dealing with. And we will be dealing with this for the next 2 to 3 years as people are rescheduling. And so who knows, I think all of this is dramatically going to change once most of the world is vaccinated. We don't even know that once people are vaccinated, if we're going to have to keep those requirements of low capacity. Maybe it will even be a requirement of being vaccinated in order to enter to the Philippines as a tourist.
Yes.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think we all just have to stay tuned and adapt. So Bo, I have a question for you. It was one of the first questions that were given in our session. Please give us it was said in your presentation, but maybe just give us a summary of pros and cons for liveaboard diving.
Well, the pros, Roni did a very good job in that. And probably the cons, aside from that safety issue that I mentioned, would have to be the weather. But then again, if you're out here and if you're in a resort or in a liveaboard, the weather is the weather, right? So other than that, everything's taken care of on the boats. You just have to come in with the good vibes, and yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yes, and liveaboard diving is really an experience that I hope all our guests would try to book or rebook if they have existing bookings. Now, Yvette, if you can take on this, or everyone can actually just share in behalf of your establishments, what is the minimum diving license to be allowed to dive at Tubbataha?
I don't have a minimum diving license, but I do ask our guests to have at least 50 dives, experience 50 dives before they come to Tubbataha on our boats anyway.
Okay.
And as an addition to what about the safety features, I happen to think that liveaboard diving is one of the safer forms of scuba diving that you can do, because once you get on the boat, because any place you go anyway, you're required to have a swab test. So as long as you practice the social distancing and all of that, it's like being in a quarantine facility for 7 days, except you're on vacation. You're doing something for 7 quarantine days, and you don't get to go down because you're on the liveaboard. You don't have to go down. Actually, that was part of the contract that we had with the local government in Southern Leyte, was that nobody could come up or go down from the boat. And we followed that. The only time that people came up were the Coast Guard, and they were in PPEs to check our documents. Otherwise, everybody stayed on the boat. And after 14 days, everybody was symptom-free. We could remove our masks.
Maybe this is the new form of selling liveaboards. We just have to sell them as quarantine facilities.
Yes. True.
Before you go into the country, go on a liveaboard first, experience the islands, and then you can enter Manila. Just kidding. Okay, so Bo, I think you've been seeing some questions. There is a recreational diver, a free diver, who is asking who wants to be an underwater photographer, and maybe we can also add, is free diving allowed in Tubbataha right now in any of your liveaboards?
As far as I know, they are allowed. They just have to pay. The thing with us anyway, when we are asked a question about snorkeling and free diving, is as long as they're willing to go with the scheduled trips from the scheduled trips from the boat, they're welcome to come. But the problem is, but there are some areas that are quite deep. If we're they'd have to stay in the shallow area.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, so everyone, speakers, may I just remind you that we have some people who want to connect to you on your establishments. If you can put the website of the discovery and everything, or how to reach you on the comment section of the ADEX live video, then that would be great. Yeah, but you can do that after our live as well, because people may want to book with you or connect with you after seeing the beautiful destinations that you guys presented. Okay, now, another question is, are there currently any liveaboards open right now, or that we are able to take off on or book from February or March onwards? Any from your end, maybe Roni, is there anything?
We are unfortunately since March 14th of last year, when Portugalera Resort closed down, we're not operating at the moment. We are waiting for international borders to open before we resume operation. And again, because as well as the domestic restrictions at the moment, it's impossible to operate. So who knows? I mean, if those are lifted and we can operate out of Puerto Princesa, which is where we normally operate out of, then
okay.
Stay tuned. I mean, stay tuned on our website, stay tuned on our social media, and I'm sure everybody will be announcing everything in big bangs.
Okay. How I'm seeing this is everyone just so excited to jump on a liveaboard, and they're seeing if there's a liveaboard available now, but I know that everyone just please stay tuned on the social media sites and the websites of our speakers, because you never know, maybe next week we'll be allowed to book again, right? So yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So all the boats are raring to go, right, Roni?
Oh, absolutely.
All the crew is raring to go.
Everybody's ready to go. Yeah, absolutely. And I do also want to say, we get asked quite a lot is what we can do during this pandemic. What can we do to help the Philippines? What can we do to help the roosters in the background of either probably Bo's house. I can't imagine Yvette has roosters.
I have cows.
There you go. But I think, guys, also think about, there are future years. If you want to go on a liveaboard, yes, this year is a little bit iffy and up in the air, but have a look at 2022. Start making plans ahead. Most of the liveaboards and most of the operations at the moment are definitely offering flexible booking terms, flexible cancellation terms, and so take advantage of that. If you want to go, you just want to go now, but you can't. Don't give it up. Don't sit down and wait. Book for next year at amazing rates with very flexible conditions and come diving. And look, if we can go before, make it, change the plans. But otherwise, prepare for next year. We are waiting for you, all of us in the Philippines.
Yeah, and to add to that, like the people that have booked already but could not go for 2020 and maybe for this year, I don't know yet. Don't give up hope. Just like Roni mentioned. Yeah, use those terms or reschedule it for another time. I'm sure everybody here is just waiting for you guys to get here.
As I said yesterday, as much as everyone misses going on liveaboards and all these different destinations, these destinations miss you guys too, miss the guests, and I'm sure the marine life miss meeting you guys underwater. Okay, we are on our last 5 minutes, so I will ask some questions around, and I think this is going to be fun.
Hey, Roni, I'm sorry, Vanessa.
Yep.
There's that question about a freediver and photography that I don't think that got answered.
I will, may I ask you I will direct you to, we have a talk tomorrow for photography at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
which is on Friday, so you can specifically ask these photographers on the type of camera and all these different things you want, especially that you're a free diver. So may I invite you to join? Actually, Bo, you are the moderator for that. Am I right?
Moderating that with Gutsy and Lynn and Jerome. So we'll tackle that question tomorrow. Thanks, though.
Okay, yes, no problem. And a lot of people here are maybe first-time Liveaboard guests, and are really interested in jumping on that because of the lockdown fever and all these feelings. So, Yvette, may I ask you, what is your favorite Liveaboard or trip that you've experienced that you'd like to share? And I'm gonna ask Bo and Roni to share the same thing.
Here in the Philippines?
Yes, in the Philippines.
Of course, Tubbataha and Panao.
Of course.
And I bet you it's the same thing for the two of them.
Okay, what is your favorite moment so that we can get all these guests excited and they're gonna go online afterwards and book on these different Liveaboards? Was it the first time you ran into a tiger shark, perhaps?
It's very hard to say that because Tubbataha, like somebody pointed out to me, it's like the Africa of diving. You never know what you're going to see the next minute. It could be a very, very boring dive, and then you turn a corner and then you're face to face with a whale shark, or you think you're a boring dive, and then all of a sudden you get your wetsuit pants scared off because a tiger shark comes from behind, and then all of a sudden it just passes by you, and your eyes is like so bugged out because you're so shocked that you can't even lift your camera. And then my guests come and tell me about it, and I'm like, where's the video? Because the three of you are carrying cameras, and they're looking at each other, and they're like, oh,
didn't happen. Didn't happen.
We couldn't take a picture or take a video. I said, so no pictures. It's not true.
Yes. Okay. So Bo, I'm gonna ask you the same question. If you can share an experience, or maybe you have a favorite charter that you went through.
So many good experiences on boats. Liveaboards is definitely a way to go if you want to see a lot of variety in the Philippines. One trip we did was coming in from Palau, and in the Philippines we got stamped in Surigao. We did all the customs, quarantine, and immigration there, and started diving all the way to Tubbataha. Wow. And you see the variety, you see the changes from one part of the region to another island to another place, and it just the way it can be designed is it just builds up until you get to the pinnacle, which is Tubbataha.
Yes. Okay. Roni, what about you? Any experiences you want to share?
Yeah, well, of course, you can't talk about liveaboard diving and not say Tubbataha and get your face all super ramped up and excited about it. But I want to say that it's also about combining destinations, just like Bo said. So we did a trip from Tubbataha to Dumaguete on Atlantis, Azores. And on the way, we dive exquisite places. And like Bo said, you can really see the difference. So we dove Cagayancillo, which is a small island. Well, it's an island. Yeah, exactly. But it's got a massive, extensive reef system around it that resembles an atoll, but I don't believe it's an atoll. And so you could really see the difference from Tubbataha, which is a true open ocean destination, very little human effect, which is what we like. And then through Cagayancillo, and then finishing off in Dumaguete with the volcanic sand and all the macro, where you've got 10 days where you've seen everything from massive whale sharks to the tiniest bobtail squid. Yeah.
Gotta readjust your eyes.
You have to readjust your eyes, exactly. And that, I think, this is the greatness of the Philippines. And that's what people need to remember. It's not just about one thing and one form of diving. And I've spent 2 years in Palau and I love it to death. But, it's not just about pelagics. It's not just about big walls. It's not just about big stuff. We have everything. It's the variety and the different things that you can see in different destinations in the Philippines. And when you get on a boat, you can combine all these destinations into one trip, and that's the magic of it.
Okay, so just to wrap everything up, after hearing all of this from our speakers, we are not sure if the international tourists will be allowed to come in yet, but stay tuned. But for those domestic travelers, It is time that, you've always put Tubbataha on your bucket list. You always put this Visayas charter on a bucket list. This year, I think it's time for you to take the opportunity with these special rates that the Liveaboards are going and finally check that out, right? It's been a long year for everyone. In 2020, we don't know what 2021 has to offer. So life is short. And I think, you guys book if you can. Guy, I have one more question actually. Here. So to our two PCSSD commissioners, where do we find the announcements? Do you have social media pages or websites?
First, the website, which is thaiphilippines.com.ph. And of course, you find it on Facebook, which is PCSSD. Yeah, do a search for that. And stay tuned. There will be more stuff coming on. Yvette's got a lot of hot news she wants to share right now.
Oh.
I do?
Could you give us a little hint of your hot surprises?
No, I shared it already. About
you shared it already.
About the Liveaboard and the guidelines. Basically that's what's on our plates right now. So aside from that, everybody's just hoping that international arrivals will be allowed to come in, and I hope our government is doing something about having guidelines. Like if you have a vaccine certificate, you should be allowed to come in already.
Yes, that's okay. That's amazing to hear. Before we wrap up, everyone, is there anything you guys want to say to our guests? Maybe parting words. So Roni, we'll start with you, and then Bo, and then Yvette, and then I'm going to end the talk and introduce you to the next episode. So Roni, your parting words.
Absolutely. Well, guys, in these times where we can't see each other face to face, we do have a lot of webinars that were recorded for your underwater photographers. We have a lot of sessions with tips and tricks on how to shoot in the Philippines, by shoot with a camera, not with a gun. And so you can go to our website, which is atlantishotel.com. And over there, you can see there is a series of webinars that you can watch at your own pace. And another way to stay in touch with people during these difficult times where we can not go diving with our guests is via photo contests. And we have a monthly photo contest that we invite you all to join. Your photos don't have to be from the Philippines. The theme changes every month and the judge changes every month. And so please follow us on social media. It's Atlantis Dive Resorts on either Instagram or Facebook. And feel free to join to our photo contest, get on our newsletter. This is the only way we have at the moment to communicate with you, to show you the great pleasures of the underwater in the Philippines, and hopefully see you soon in person.
Amazing, thank you. Bo, any parting words from your end?
Before the parting words, I just want to ask everybody out there, who thinks Roni should start a vlog? Yeah, everybody, we are very excited to see you when we see you. And in the meantime, stay tuned and keep those fingers crossed. We never know.
Hold on to your bookings, guys, and stay tuned with the announcements from PCSSD, the different dive establishments, and the local government if we are going to be able to have a season this year. So, Yvette?
I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and I hope to see everybody underwater, whether it's in Tubbataha, Puerto Galera. There's a lot of places that are open, so keep those scuba diving flames and fire and the passion for it, flaming by going to the ones that are open. I mean, I've quelled my internal diving fires by going to Anilao and Puerto Galera, so I hope you're doing the same thing. And for our international visitors, please come to the Philippines once we are open. We'd love to have you here, and I'm sure that you're also itching to come back.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank our speakers, Bo, Yvette, and Roni. Thank you very much. And I would like to remind everyone, if you're interested to pursue open scuba diving, open water, discovery diving, or anything professional tech, we have a dive training and education talk happening at 2 p.m. later. So we hope to see all of you there. And if there are no more questions, I'd like to say thank you again to the speakers and goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.